it's Sandra. Welcome back to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So what are we waiting for? Subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So if you're asexual and you're a single person, how do you be happy being single? Now, I know some asexuals struggle with this. Is this you? Do you find it really difficult to be single on your own and you're thinking, how can I possibly be happy? Because I really want a partner, I really want a life companion, and my life sucks. And I know that's not every asexual, but I know some asexuals really do feel like that from the comments I read in my groups and also in other asexual groups. So if that sounds like you, stick around. If you don't know who I am, Sandra Bellamy, author of this awesome Asexual Perspectives book out on Amazon. So get a copy of that. So if you didn't already know, this week, February the 14th, is International Celebrate Being Single Day. Yes, February the 14th. If you didn't know about this, I actually was the person who founded this on the 14th of February 2015. And so it's a day which I personally celebrate being single every single year, and I always encourage other people to. So I made it an international thing so that everyone, regardless of where they are in the world, if they're single, they can celebrate February the 14th as their very own special day. Yes, it's the same day as Valentine's Day, and some people are very anti-Valentine's. I don't personally like being an anti-Valentine because I do not begrudge anyone else being in a relationship or enjoying a relationship together and all the love and the wonder that goes with that, right? But I also want to not feel left out and lonely on February the 14th. And years ago in 2015, I decided that I didn't want to feel like lonely or left out on February the 14th. And I understood that so many other people around the world on February the 14th, if they're single, can find it really hard and difficult, like if you haven't got a partner. So the whole reason I set up International Celebrate Being Single Day was not to take away from the people who want to celebrate February the 14th as Valentine's Day, but it's to help all the people in the world that are single and that feel kind of lonely, left out on that day. So instead, they can celebrate it as their special day and make a big celebration of that. So that's where I'm coming from with this. Every February the 14th, I celebrate being single. I take myself out somewhere, and usually I record it for this channel. And you can see what I get up to. In the past, you can see places I've been to. I think I've been to the zoo, I've been to the cinema and various places like that. And I absolutely love taking myself out. And, I want you to know that International Celebrate Being Single Day is not just for asexuals, it's for anyone in the world who's single. And I didn't want anyone else to feel left out lonely on that day. Years ago, I was sat at college and I remember thinking and feeling so lonely and left out when other people were having partners and everything. So one year, this goes back to college, I was getting myself a Valentine's cake just to myself, like a heart. Well, it's a heart-shaped cake because it was on Valentine's Day. And I thought, why is it that I feel so lonely and left out? And I thought, well, that's when I thought in 2015, if I created a day where it's like single special day as well, and we have a special celebration just for ourselves on that day, then no more will we feel lonely and left out. We can celebrate as our own special day. So that's where I originally got the idea from, all the way back when I was in college, which, as I'm so young, wasn't that long ago. Maybe a little bit longer than I'd like. So anyway, getting back to how can you be happy being single? Well, first of all, I have to say there can be a lot of people in society that think there's something wrong with you if you're single after a certain age, or they can think that you have to get married because that's a done thing. People can be brought up in communities and societies and cultures to believe that marriage is the be all and end all of life. And if you don't get married, you're not partnered up, something's wrong with you, right? So, first of all, to be happy being single, you have to understand this is just conditioning. This is just some people's thinking. This is not the norm for everyone. This is just what other people believe. You do not have to believe that. You can choose to completely disregard that. If you don't want marriage and you don't want to be in a relationship or a partnership, that is perfectly fine and it's good. There are a lot of people who are single and who are very successful and happy in their life. So we need to understand that society and cultures and religions often condition us to believe and think certain things that we don't even necessarily think and believe ourselves. It's just we've had it shoved down our throats for so many years and in our minds. It's been like a seed with a beaver there gnawing away at the seed. That's finally, kind of gets to us sometimes. But we need to know that it's okay to be single. There's no problem with it. And for many people, being single can actually be an enlightenment. It can be a good experience. And the reason for this is because when people are in relationships, a lot of the time you can lose yourself. You can not have enough time to self-reflect or any time to self-reflect. You can be so busy thinking about the other person all the time that you neglect your own needs and your own self, and you neglect your wants and desires. You can be so like trying to sort the relationship out that you forget what you want. So a huge benefit of being single is you can focus on yourself more, your own needs, your own wants, your own desires. You can take time out to reflect on yourself and your life, and you can make the appropriate changes as you want and see fit, not having to consider anyone else but yourself often, especially if you live on your own. Obviously, if you live with other people, housemates, family, friends, then you need to be considerate to a certain extent of other people, right? But if you're single, you have the ability to be able to move often wherever you want. You have the ability to be able to live wherever you want, do what you want, when you want. You have complete agency and autonomy a lot of the time over your life. Of course, there's external factors that do come out to play, whatever you want to call it. They do come into play is the correct terminology, I believe. And so, there's certain things that's going to happen in your life that you can't control. But overall, you have much more control, I believe, over your own life when you're single, because when you're in a relationship, you do have to consider the other person. You can't completely live your life separately and make every decision without factoring in the other person, because it would feel like you were just ignoring them or abandoning them. And you know what I mean? If you're in a relationship or partnership, you need to kind of be consulting with the other person on certain things. You need to be asking their opinion, asking how they feel. You need to be caring about how they think and feel. Whereas if you're on your own, especially if you live on your own, you have to care about what yourself thinks and believes. You can be more of your own authentic self as a single person. Often when we get into relationships, companionships, if we spend a lot of time together with someone else, we often end up becoming a bit like them or a lot like them. So the more we end up in a situation where, for example, we're living with someone and maybe we see that person every day, some relationships are like that, then we end up becoming a bit more like the other person, because it's like they rub off on us, because the more you spend time with people, the more you naturally end up being like them a lot of the time, which is okay if they're really amazing, good, and they're improving your life in some way. But excuse me, I have to move my legs. If they're, if they're very negative, if they're very despondent towards you, if they are not treating you well like they should be treating you, then your life can get really shitty. I'm going to be blatantly honest with you. Relationships are hard work. They're not easy. And sometimes it's easier to be on your own as a single person, because you only have to worry about yourself. You don't have to think about yourself a lot of the time. You don't have to do things by yourself if you want, whenever you want. Like, as a single person, I can literally walk out this door and go anywhere I want to, wherever there's public transport, because I don't drive, wherever I want to, when I want to. I don't have anyone telling me what to do. I don't have to consult with anyone. I don't have to phone anyone up or tell anyone. Well, usually I tell my best friends so they know where I am for safety. But you know what I mean? When you're on your own, you don't, especially when you live on your own, you have like complete autonomy and agency as much as possible because you're not having to answer to anyone but yourself. And so this can be very freeing. I mean, years ago, I used to be in unhealthy relationships, romantic relationships, I'm talking about. And I used to be in unhealthy friendships as a kid at school as well, in college person. But, I've got away from all that. Like, not every relationship is going to be perfect. There's going to be some aspects that may not be as healthy as they should be. But the whole goal is to strive for as healthier as possible relationships and friendships that you can get. But when you're with yourself, that's a time for self-reflection and self-improvement. Like if you spend the time on your own wisely to not just sit there watching TV, then you can actually convert yourself, reinvent yourself, if you like, into be a better version of you. So you can achieve more in your life and have bigger goals and aspirations, and you can have things to work towards. Now, when you're in a relationship, a lot of the time in my past relationships, I would literally do like a 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 job, or I used to work 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 11-hour shifts in one of my jobs for 3 years. A lot of the time, it wasn't necessarily that all the time, but for 3 days a week, predominantly, I used to do that. And then work Saturday and Sunday. That was a retail manager's job I had. And it was hard, that was like 11 hours. Now, if I had been living with someone at the time, that would have made my life even more difficult, right? So if you are a single person, I was actually in a relationship then, so that made it hard because I couldn't see the person as much. But if you are single, if you're really stressed out doing that amount of hours, you can just come home, you can go to sleep, make yourself a nice chamomile tea, have some food, and go to sleep. But if you're living with someone or in a relationship with someone and seeing them, it's harder because then you haven't seen them for hours, and they're usually going to want to talk to you and spend some time with you. They might want to stay up late and watch the TV, and you've got an early shift the next day. And, it can be very draining. And also, it can be very difficult because you're trying to keep up a relationship as well as a job, as well as your own interests. Often, when we're in a relationship, our own interests, like we don't either have them, or we don't have enough of them, or we can't spend enough time on our own personal interests and hobbies. When you're single, you can spend a lot more time on your own hobbies, your own interests. You can fill your time up with whatever you want to do. So it's a much better way of being, in the sense that you are able to give all yourself in the time you're with yourself to everything you want to do. And there's a great sense of relief, when you don't have to impress anyone, you don't have to do something because someone else wants you to do it. You don't have to compromise yourself at all. Obviously, if you have friends, even if you're single, you have friends, and say you go out together, then you do have to compromise some of the time, because sometimes you might want to go where you want to go, and other times you might need to go where the other person wants to go. Like sometimes with my friends, I got to compromise on where we eat or what we do, because sometimes they don't want to do the same things as me, or they might have done it once with me and they don't want to do it again with me. You know what I mean? Not because it's with me, because they just don't want to do that thing again. I kind of like doing some of the same things over and over again. Like I like going out to Nando's over and over again. I like going to the movies and seeing different movies, but I like going to theme parks over and over again, zoos over and over again, aquariums over and over again, even if they're the same thing I've been to before, like months ago. You know what I mean? I like familiarity. I like repetition in that way. And so, some other people get bored with that. And so you've got to think of other people as well in your life. But if you're single and you're just chilling or doing whatever you want by yourself, you've got nothing to worry about. I personally have something called relationship anxiety. And I have an anxiety condition, but I specifically have relationship anxiety. And it's very hard. It makes getting into a relationship really difficult because you know, I think I'm better off single a lot of the time, and I find a lot of people, not all people, but a lot of people are not very trustworthy these days. And so, the idea of someone actually being interested in me back is not unfathomable. It's good, but often they like me for the wrong reasons. Like, what I mean by that is on dating sites, usually they just like my picture. They don't read my bio. I say to them, "Oh, thank you for liking me, but I'm not sure you've read my bio." And like a guy on Facebook dating the other day was like, "Oh, to be honest, I didn't know." And this is what I get the majority of time. They don't read the bio because all they're looking for is a pretty face, which is great. I've got such a beautiful face that loads of guys like it. But you know what I mean? It's no good to me. A pretty face doesn't make a healthy relationship. A pretty face doesn't mean to say we're going to be compatible. Do you know what I mean? So when you're on your own, you have time to do self-improvement. What does that mean? That means you have to reflect on the things in life. Like, you look at the past only to like reflect on what went right and what went wrong and how you can improve yourself. So if you're the person who does want to get into a relationship, but you're not in one at the moment, you're single, you should be using some of your time, a proportion of time, to find out how to have a healthy relationship. Excuse me, how to have better communication, how to have active listening skills, how to improve yourself in multiple aspects of relationships so that you can be a better partner for someone else in the future, and you're more able to easily identify when someone is not being healthy for you, you know? So if someone's not being healthy for you, you can spot it a lot quicker. So when you're by yourself, instead of just sitting there mindlessly watching TV or playing video games or having cans of beer and watching Netflix, you need to be actually thinking, okay, what can I do to improve myself? How can I look at myself and think of things I did in my past that maybe not so good? I don't beat myself up for them, but I change myself in the present moment to become better as a human being for myself first and foremost. And then if I want to get into a relationship later, I can do. Just because you're happy single doesn't mean to say that you can't have a relationship in the future. So ways to be happy being single is, first of all, realize it's great to be single. So it's okay if you can't stand the word great, if you're trying to change your mindset and you'll find it difficult. No, it's okay to be single. It's perfectly fine. It's good to be single. Why? Because you have complete autonomy and agency usually over life, especially if you live on your own. If you live with other people, it's slightly different. You can do what you want when you want. You have your freedom to be able to do what you please whenever you please to do it. You can focus on your own hobbies and interests and do them a lot more than if you were in a relationship with someone, because obviously you don't have an infinite amount of time and energy. So that means you have to split your time and energy between you, your friends, your partner, if you had a partner or in a relationship, your hobbies, your interests, your career. So you've got one less thing to split your time and energy over. Therefore, you can have more time and energy for yourself, or for having more friends in your life, or doing more hobbies and interests. Some people, like, they really want to get a load of friends, and I'm thinking, why? Because it's good to have friends. Don't get me wrong, but if you want so many friends, like, and you struggle particularly with energy or mental health and stuff, it's like you only have so much energy, right? You cannot give your energy to multiple people all the time. So if you're going to have friends, say 20 friends, you need to kind of rotate them a lot of the time. If you work a full-time job, you wouldn't be able to see them all the time each week. I mean, you can't see them all the time anyway. It's not healthy for you. But what I mean to say is, fitting 20 people in a week is not going to be easy unless you're on holiday. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't be able to give so much quality time, right? So it's better to have less friends, really, more acquaintances, and be able to like use that time energy for yourself and working on yourself and being your own best friend. So when you're single, the way to be happy being single is to grow your own self-confidence, your own self-esteem, And you do this by going out on your own. So the thing that you're scared of the most, going out on your own, is the thing you need to do to increase your confidence of being on your own. The more things you do on your own, the happier you will be as a single person, because it will become your default, what your norm is. But when you are newly single, for example, and you've just come out of a relationship, it's so difficult to adjust to being single because you're used to that person being there. They're like your crutch, if you like. They're like your comfy armchair too. And like everything else in between, you're kind of very reliant on them. You integrated your life with them. Maybe your friends were integrated too together. And so it can be very discomforting and disheartening and just very, very difficult trying to break away from that, because your heart and mind and spirit is kind of still there with them. And you need to break free, and it can be very difficult if you've spent nearly all your time with them. That's why it's good if you get into a relationship to make sure you still have time for your friends. I personally prefer to live separately because then I think that you can still have some of your own freedom and independence more easily, and if something goes wrong, you've still got your own home to go to, right? And you can have like two homes. Two homes are better than one sometimes. They're more interesting, right? And so, don't think that because you're single, it's a disadvantage. It's actually a major advantage, because you don't have to go by societal constructs or conditioning. You don't have to fit in with relationship conditioning. You can have your freedom to travel where you want, when you want. You can have your freedom to move whenever you want, where you want. You can have your freedom to do whatever you want, when you want. You get so much more freedom being single, right? And the way you enjoy your freedom is by practicing doing things on your own, and practice self-dating. Self-dating is an intentional practice you need to do. So you need to say, okay, so for example, I need to go out on Wednesday, 14th of February, to celebrate being single. I haven't been too well lately, so I kind of was umming ahhing, should I go out or not? But I don't think I'm contagious. I just think it's a well, I've been told it's a bacterial skin condition, which, as long as I keep it covered up, I don't think it affects other people. So yeah. And when you're on your own, like if you have an anxiety condition like I do, I find it a lot easier to be on my own, because I get anxious over things like toilet rolls, like not having enough toilet rolls or not having a certain amount of items in my home. And so for me personally, I can put things in place, like making sure I don't go below a certain amount of toilet rolls, or go below a certain amount of having certain things in my home. I can much more easily monitor that, and I can make sure that I have the things that I need, right? Which I don't believe is easy to do if you're in a relationship. Like in the past, I've relied on an ex, for example, to get certain shopping things for me. And if they forget, they might not think it's a big deal, but to me, it really is. And it causes a lot of discomfort and stress if they haven't got the food shopping that they said they were going to get for me. Right. So that used to cause me a hell of a lot of stress. So I think if I look back at when I was in a relationship and even living with someone, it can be so much more stressful, because you may rely on the other person. And if they are unreliable, or say, oh, I just forgot, or something's not such a big deal to them, there's a big deal to you. That can cause a lot of anguish within your body. It can cause a lot of anxiety build up, and it can cause a lot of resentment, and it can cause a lot of ill feelings, and it can cause you to feel quite angry that the person didn't even consider you. They were too busy doing something else to worry or to bother with you or bother with your request. But when you live on your own, and when you are on your own as a single person, you can get those items for yourself and rely on yourself, and there's no one else to blame. But it gives you a greater degree of accountability and responsibility. So if you're the type of person, when you're in a relationship, you personally lacked accountability and you lacked responsibility, say you lived at home with your parents and you moved in and had a relationship with someone, but you didn't really know what to expect, and you had a lack of accountability and responsibility. Say you were that person that other person said, oh, hey honey, can you get X, Y, and Z shopping after work? And you're like, yeah, sure. And then you're just like, you didn't get it, and the person's quite mad with you, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Then it's it's very good being single because you don't have that situation going on, and it helps you if you're the person that wasn't getting those things when you said you would, you become unreliable, so if you're that person and then they split that, if you were that person that didn't get what you said you would get, didn't follow through, you lacked responsibility and accountability, it's like it's no big deal to you. When you live on your own and you're single, you get a rude awakening, if you like, because you are responsible and accountable for your own life. So it makes you, being single on your own often, not always, often makes you more responsible and accountable for your actions, but not always. I have known people that just literally have their place like a complete shit tip on purpose. They've got like literally, my place is not always the tidiest, right? But they have literally got stuff all over their floor and they couldn't care less, and they don't have accountability and responsibility pretty much for anything. But if you have separated from someone and you are living on your own, you still have to be responsible to a certain extent if you want to eat. But I've known people who live on their own who just literally get takeaways all the time, or get fast food, or shove everything in the microwave, And so it's not exactly healthy, is it? But when you're single, you can live how you please. If you want to live unhealthy, that's up to you. But also living singly and being single can help you be more responsible, be more accountable, and achieve more in your life. So if you look at being single as enhancing your life and making you a better version of yourself, then that can really help, right? When you're being happy being single, it's about the places you go to, the people you surround yourself with, the environment you're in. All these play a factor into whether you're going to be happy being single, and your mindset is huge. So when you're single, make sure that you keep a diary of your thoughts, feelings, emotions. You can, and appointments and things like that. You can also make sure that you set timetables and goals. Make sure you have time scheduled in for you and your friends. You can work on being more sociable by going out to sociable groups or going to groups in general. So meetup.com is a great way to meet other people. When you are single, you have much more opportunity to meet a variety of different people from different backgrounds and cultures, because you are single. You don't have someone thinking you're going to go for someone else. You don't have someone who's with you all the time or goes out with you specifically. You can be yourself a lot more, and you can mix with a lot more other people because you don't have the responsibility of answering to someone else or consulting with someone else or worried about the other person's feelings, right? So being happy being single is about understanding yourself, understanding your advantages over being in a relationship, which are huge advantages, like huge. And personally for me, because I've got fibromyalgia as well, housework hurts my body, so I do the least amount I can, so I don't have pain as much as a lot of people do with the condition. And that suits me much better. If I was living with someone, I would be expected to wash up every single day. As soon as we eat food, I'd be expected to hoover much more. I'd be expected to cook and clean all that lot. And it's like, no. And obviously, if I live with someone else, and I've got to think about their space and the tidiness of it and what's in there. Whereas when I live on my own, I can please myself. If I don't go down to the kitchen very much, or if I don't go in a specific area of the kitchen or around a specific part of the kitchen, then it doesn't matter if it's not so tidy, because I don't use that area, so it doesn't affect me. But when you're living with someone else or having a relationship with someone else and they're there with you a lot of the time, then it can affect them. So being happy being single as well is about growing your own confidence, like I said, self-esteem. And the way you do this is by you give yourself and tell yourself and agree with yourself to do things. And then you follow through on those things. And when you complete them successfully, or even if it's unsuccessfully, you celebrate the fact that you've completed it, so that you know that you can trust yourself. You have to build trust with yourself. And the more you live by yourself, the more you can understand societal conditioning and go away from it, because you can build your own little world. and build your own life. And you don't have to watch TV if you're the only person in the room. You don't have to watch certain movies if they're going to cause nightmares or discomfort with you, because you live on your own. You don't have to put yourself in positions that are uncomfortable or watch things you don't want to watch because you're on your own. You're single, so you have complete in your diary and on your calendar of when you're self-dating. And when I say self-date, you have to make sure you're there for yourself. The only way you build trust with yourself is keeping your word, your secrets, your promises to you, you know? Because if you make a decision, you need to then follow through on the decision. If the decision ends up being a wrong one or a mistake, that's okay. I don't believe there are any mistakes, they're just lessons we learn from. So you can never ever fail. That's my motto for a long time. But the only way you are going to grow in confidence is by making decisions for yourself, quicker decisions, bigger decisions, faster. And when you make those decisions, you follow through on them and you go with whatever outcome there is and respond accordingly to that outcome. This is how you build trust with yourself. If you keep saying to yourself, I'm going to do something, you never do it, what do you think the person inside you is going to feel and think? Like, oh, well, you never do what you say you're going to do anyway. You're unreliable. I can't trust you. Right. And you also have to trust your own judgment with relationships and dating. If you do dating as a single person without being in a relationship, then if something doesn't feel right and it feels off and your intuition tells you that person's not good, even if other people say they are good, you need to follow that, because it's all about trusting yourself. And the more, excuse me, gotta move my legs again, the more you can trust yourself, the better your life's going to be. A lot of the discomfort we feel as a single person is because we're not comfortable being on our own, because we inherently don't feel worthy in life, or we feel there's something wrong with us, or we feel lonely if we've not got anyone else to validate us or to be around us or to praise us or to talk to us. Like, loneliness is a genuine thing. So, if you do feel lonely, there are groups you can go to. There are ways that you can stop being so lonely, which is, if you want to be around people, then I said find local interest groups, for example, on meetup.com. Find some groups on meetup.com and go and meet some people. Loneliness is a real thing. It's one of the biggest problems we have in our society, because people feel very disconnected from others. But you can look at being single as being disconnected from others, or you can look at being single as connected to yourself, connected to your life, connected to what you want to do in life, connected to your achievements. So if you think being single is bad because there's a disconnect, make sure you feel more connected to yourself, more into yourself, more doing things for yourself, more making yourself happy. So making yourself happy is about doing things that make you feel happy, such as, whatever your favorite hobbies are, whatever you like to do. So I have a happy list that I created years ago that I still try to do things on, like 10 things that make you happy. Write 10 things that make you happy. Like, one of them for me is a hot shower. Although in recent months that's become a lot more difficult because I've got skin conditions all the time, and I seem to be getting more and more allergic to lots of different stuff I use in the shower. So it's not that good. So I might have to, I'm trying to find something suitable, but I'm digressing a bit. But the hot shower is one of the things on my happy list, right? Another thing on my happy list is dancing, because I love dancing. It makes me feel good. Another thing on my happy list is to watch a movie. Movies help me relax. I did that earlier because I didn't feel like I had enough energy. So I thought I need to relax. So I did that. And then, connecting with my audience here makes me feel happy. And, writing makes me feel happy, but I haven't done much writing lately. I've done blog posts, which is writing, but I haven't done a asexual book writing or editing for some time, which is really annoying. So I need to get back to that. So work out what you like, and then what you need to do is between 1 and 3 of those on your happy list every single day. Ideally, you do 3 of them, because the more you do of things on your happy list that make you feel happy personally over and over again, the more you make yourself feel happier. Now, if you end up feeling happier as a single person more than you feel happy with other people, whether that's in past relationships, dating experiences, or even in like situations with family or friends, if you feel happier being on your own than you do in any of those situations, or as happy either being with someone else or on your own, like equally happy, then you are gonna feel happy and good about being on your own. But if you think something's lacking and missing and you had a better time and was happier in a relationship or dating or with your friend than you are on your own, then you're gonna feel a lack. So the way you get to be happy being single is by making sure that you don't feel like you're lacking in your life. You feel like by being single, you're making yourself happier. And just think of all the things you can do on your own that will be harder to do in a relationship, and do more and more of those, because the more and more you detach yourself from the idea of a relationship making you happy, and the more you attach the idea of being single makes you happy, and the things you do when you're single makes you happy, the more happy you'll be as a single person. Does that make sense? So you need to increase the amount of happiness you provide to yourself through doing things that feel good to you, that bring you positive emotions, that help you to say good things about your life and yourself. Positive self-talk is another one that's really important for increasing your happiness as a single person. If you're talking to yourself negatively, saying I'm shit or I look crap and all this sort, it's going to do you no good at all. So you need to increase your positive self-talk. Like, look at yourself in the mirror, make yourself look in the mirror regularly, daily, and say, I love myself. And say things you like about yourself. Like, I like my hair, I like my smile, I like my body, voluptuous body. You know what I mean? Beautiful skin when it's not in a distressed state. So some of my skin's not good at the moment, but the bits that are good are still good and nice. If you like a certain item of clothing you wear, praise that. So the more you associate positive emotions, positive feelings, positive self-talk, lots of good positive stuff with being single, then the more you'll be happier being single. Specifically, if you had bad relationships in the past, or bad dating experiences, or not very great, or nothing special, right? If you can increase your happiness, your feel good, positive vibes with yourself, and increase what you do, what you see, what you taste, what you are in terms of feeling better, then you are going to more and more be happy being single. So you need to increase the positive emotions in what you see. So what you watch, what you read, what you think, what you believe, what you say to yourself. So all the senses, the more you can increase positive feelings and emotions in the senses by yourself versus when you're around other people or in a relationship, the more you'll want to spend time with yourself, the more you'll be happier by yourself, the more you'll be happier being single. Because the pros of being single and spending time with yourself is going to be far higher and increased than when you're either with other people or in a relationship or dating scenario. Do you see how this works? So you need to increase the positivity, increase the excitement, increase the energy, increase feeling good on your own as a single person. And when that goes higher and higher, why wouldn't you want to spend more time by yourself, be single, and be happy being single? Because you'll know that there's more advantages to being single and being on your own than there is when you're in a relationship around others. Do you see where I'm coming from? It's logical. You increase the positive emotions, feelings, thoughts, things you consume in your body, your environmental factors, you increase all them in your favor. And the more that you give yourself in your favor, the happier you'll be as a single person and think, my God, look what I was missing before. The reason you missed the past is because you think it's better than your current single life. If you're feeling bad about your single life or yourself as a single person. It's because your ideology, your thoughts and feelings, emotions think that something's better elsewhere. But if you categorically end up understanding on a fundamental level with all your senses that being single is really good for you and makes you really happy, you're going to start to want another relationship or another person less and less and less, because you're going to think, well, I've got such a good life on my own. So that's how you get a better life and better thoughts and feelings, emotions. Like, you can change your environment by moving, or you can get new furniture, or you can paint your home, or you can get new soft furnishings, like curtains and carpets, cushions, this type of thing. You could get, pretty lights. You can make changes to make yourself happy. When you live with someone, often you have to have, like a shared wall, share idea of the best wallpaper or the best paint or where things should go in the home, right? But when you are single and live on your own, you can choose yourself where things go. If you are single and you have your own room, even in a house, you can choose what you have in that room, right? The more you do for yourself, the more you choose yourself, the more you choose things for yourself, the more you'll grow your self-esteem, the more you're growing confidence as a single person, and the happier you will be as a single person. Does this make sense? So make sure you're playing the music you like, watching the movies and programs you like, doing hobbies and interests you like, but make sure you are growing yourself. The danger of being single is you can stagnate and not grow, and then that can feel like your life is not very exciting. So you need to grow yourself in some ways. So Jonathan, hello, lots of love to you. So by growing yourself, then you allow yourself to expand and you feel like your life is more exciting. When we don't expand ourselves or develop our ideas or do goal setting and achieve goals and successes, we stagnate inside and we often die inside, or we become stale and stagnant. It's like nothing's exciting. So that's why other people end up seem more exciting. That's why having a life outside yourself seems more exciting, because yours is boring. So what you have to do is, as a single person, you have to raise your vibration of your life up by doing things, like I said, that make you happy with your senses and that feel good to you. And the more you make yourself feel good in multiple sensory ways, the more you will increase your happiness for yourself and being by yourself. This is a thing that's not really talked about. People don't usually talk about this in happiness and being single. They don't really talk about the senses, but the senses are so important. These are all the factors that play a part in your life. And the more you surround yourself with all the sensory things that make you happy, the happier you'll be. But you do have to grow yourself, because what happens is people think, which I've probably been guilty of, particularly in the past, is like think, oh, right, I want to get into this relationship because it's exciting. Some people don't even want to get into a relationship. They just like dating. Okay, so if you take me, for example, there are times when I do go clubbing, which I haven't been for a while. And, it's exciting, isn't it? Well, it's exciting for me. But I'm going there on my own. Jonathan just got back from an ACE. Oh, a spec celebration, right? London meeting event. Oh, that's cool. I was saying, Jonathan, on the 14th of February is International Celebrate Being Single Day, so I will be celebrating. I founded that day in 2015, actually, and every year I celebrate being single and usually record it on this channel. So yeah, so I found an International Celebrate Being Single Day on the 14th of February 2015, so that no single person has to feel alone on February the 14th or left out. They can feel that that is their special day to celebrate being single. Hence why I'm deciding to focus on how to be happy being single this evening, which I've covered a lot already. So yeah, and that's a huge benefit when you're single. You can just, like I said, go off whenever you want, do what you want when you want. So going to an event that makes you feel good is great. This was, oh, right, okay, yes. I've already touched on the fact that I personally am not into anti-Valentine stuff, because I do not begrudge other people going out and enjoying romance and being happy, celebrating Valentine's Day. If I was in a relationship, I would be celebrating Valentine's Day. So I'm not anti-Valentine's at all. You know, someone said to me about, oh, it's highly commercialized Valentine's Day. It's like, well, everything's commercialized. You can say that about anything. Movies are commercialized, clothes are commercialized, makeup's commercialized, gyms commercialized. Anything that is marketable is commercialized. You could argue that about anything. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely anything. Pies are commercialized, chips are commercialized, crisps are commercialized, anything. But for some people, people have a real problem with Valentine's Day and they're like, oh, it's commercialized. It's like, well, everything's commercialized. Everything that's sellable is commercialized. Otherwise, it wouldn't be sellable, would it? Do you know what I mean? You could just argue that with absolutely anything. And I'm definitely not anti-Valentine's. I think that's very negative personally. I don't want any negativity. So I just thought it was funny to take the piss out of society. Yeah, I don't think it's funny. But I know some people love it, but I don't. I've seen anti-Valentine's stuff before. I think it's horrible personally. Because I don't think it's taking the piss out of society. I just think it's taking the piss out of people that have loving some people have loving, caring, really romantic relationships, and they're celebrating being together on Valentine's Day in healthy relationships. It's great. You know, celebrating, going out on a date. Most people in relationships don't even go out on dates. But, you know, people should be dating regularly anyway. To each their own, yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely not anti-Valentine's. That's why I have I found an international celebrate being single day, so people can celebrate being single on February the 14th, which I will be doing. But you know what I mean? But I don't like any negativity, so I'm not, you know, in that way. I'm hugely romantic. I'm a hyper romantic. I think Valentine's Day is great for the people who are in couples who want to celebrate that. I've been single for years, and so I don't even think about Valentine's Day in the sense of me and Valentine's Day in that way because I'm happy being single. Although I do look at I look at things. I have bought myself a gift already for International Celebrate Being Single Day, which is beautiful gift that I love. I've had it since January and I saw it. Obviously, it's something that came out before, but I don't think they've got them in the shop anymore, actually. They only had a few there. And obviously, this is brought out for Valentine's Day, but it's not, you know, it's something I do to show I love myself for my special day. And so, yeah, I really like it. I thought I have to get that. It's just good. And it's downstairs on my kitchen table. And I look at it and think, oh, that's so beautiful. I haven't even shown anyone yet, but I don't even know if I should say, but I feel like I should talk about it on February the 14th. Because that's actually what I got it for, really. But I've been looking at it ever since. It's really nice. And so yeah, I love buying myself gifts that say love on. I bought myself this gift, which was after I think Valentine's Day, if I remember right. I bought myself it as a late gift, I think. This is so cute. Yeah, because it was reduced. Hugs make your heart happy. You see, this is just for me. So yeah, I got it afterwards because it was reduced. It was half price, I think. And so yeah, I thought this is so cute. So I really, really loved this so much. So yeah, it's important if you're single to buy yourself gifts, whatever type of gifts you like. Because you know, then you are saying you're worthy of spending money on, worthy of buying things for. It increases your self-worth, you know. There's something that cropped up recently where I was talking about body image, and I watched a YouTuber, very interesting. And this girl, she hadn't been on YouTube for 3 years. I only just came across her channel after the 3 years she'd had a break from YouTube. So I was new to her channel. I didn't know her personal story. It was actually a personal story that I was watching. And she was a person that specifically lost weight for her channel, basically. You know, she did a weight loss journey. And the reason she went off YouTube was because she was ashamed that she put weight back on. And there was a lot of comments she showed. And basically, the gist of the whole personal story that she said was that she had 3 years off YouTube because people were body shaming her and things like that, and she couldn't, like, deal with it emotionally. And also the reason she lost the weight was because of what other people were saying, because she started the channel saying she was going to glow up, and apparently that seems to be to do with weight. And I left a comment saying glowing up was never, I don't think that was ever about your weight. It's about what you're doing now, and the fact that after 3 years it took her to self-love because she was too worried about what other people thought, about comments people made. Even her own mother said, oh, to her mother said to her mother's friends, oh, she'll look even better when she's lost some weight. And it's just disgusting, right? And so this person was telling her personal story about how she went off YouTube for 3 years because she did put weight back on, and she was unhappy with herself and she didn't like herself. She would cry if she put a bit of weight on, and her weight would fluctuate and stuff like that. And behind the scenes, she was really heartbroken, and she lacked self-worth and self-love. And at the end of the 3 years, she realized that if people judge her for her, her weight and stuff negatively, then they're not even worth her time, And a guy who she once dated, um, she actually saw him at the mall afterwards and said he's dating someone else. I'm happy for him. Good luck, because I'm all right being single now. I'm happy on my own. But a lot of the time, people get jealous of other people being in relationships, or they look at couples and they don't like it because it makes them uncomfortable because they haven't got someone and they're lacking. I don't lack any self-love. I don't care about the fact other people in relationships. In fact, I'm the opposite. I'm really happy if I see a couple, asexual, not asexual, and I see they genuinely care about each other and love each other. I feel so good about that. I'm happy for people. And as a single person, if you want to be happier in yourself, be happy for others as much as possible. Make it a practice to be happy for being with others. Be happy for people being in a relationship, even if you're not in one. I know some people who are single, they don't like seeing couples together. It upsets them. It causes them pain and anguish and anxiety and ill feelings. They want to retreat. They get really upset. But instead of doing that, be happy being single and be happy that they're in the relationship they are and they found someone, even if you haven't. Because at the end of the day, it proves that real love does exist. It proves that some people can have healthy relationships. It proves that some people are caring. And we need more of those people in the world, not less, right? We need to be encouraging people to be healthy and happy and loving. Obviously, you don't have to be in a relationship to do any of that stuff. But if I see some couple together, if I understand their soulmates as well, then I'll just be so happy for them. Like, there was a person on the Eurostar that was sat next to me. We ended up sitting next to each other because that's how the Eurostar was, right? And it was really interesting. I got on so well with this person. And they were talking to me about their partner the majority of the time. And their partner has anxiety. I have anxiety. Their partner has anxiety. So they were really understanding about my anxiety because their partner has anxiety and their partner is in the UK. They come from, I think it was the Netherlands or something, or Denmark. I can't remember. But basically, they got over an 8-hour Eurostar journey to get back to their home, I think it was. And they've been over for Christmas and New Year to their partner in London. And they said eventually their partner will move over to live with them, but they'll be the provider because their partner's got disabilities like social anxiety. They can barely go out the home and stuff. But this was so nice to see someone who cared about their partner so much that even with their disabilities, their extreme anxiety condition they've got, they still want to be in a relationship with that person. They love that person. They want to spend time with that person. They were such a caring person. They so love their partner. Now, I, as a single person, don't think, oh, I'm single, like I'm missing out, because I'm not either of those two people. But I just see, my God, there's a person who's really caring about their partner. They care so much about their partner that they're not even expecting their partner to work. They want their partner to move in with them, but they're like, I will get my degrees and I will do the work for both of us. Because the person's probably not going to be able to get benefits because we're on benefits in the UK. They probably won't be able to get benefits in my country, but they want to be with my country because they prefer it than being in London, because London's very kind of bustly for them. So this was a person on the Eurostar that was talking positively about their partner. So even if you're a single person, having someone like that speak positively about their partner should be a good thing that will help you be happy, because you can see that real true love does exist, healthy relationships exist, and people genuinely do care about people, you know? And so this is important, because the more positive emotions and the positive experiences you can have as a single person, even interacting with someone else, the more you should feel better about yourself as a single person. If I'd been in a relationship, I wouldn't have had that conversation with that person on that Eurostar, because I would have been sat with the person I was with if I was going on holiday with them. You know what I mean? And so I was able to be enlightened by someone else. The benefit of being single is you can interact with a lot more people because you end up being sat next to different people. End up like even in Disneyland Paris, I ended up being on a roller coaster sat next to different guys because they on roller coasters, they don't leave single seats. You have to sit next to someone. They just go and get someone, right? Which you might not like, but it encourages you to either just sit there and say nothing or just don't say anything or to interact with that person, you know? And that can be beneficial because you can learn more about different people's cultures, different people's thinking, different people's way of being. And this helps you to grow your vocabulary, grow your thinking, grow yourself as a person, grow your ideology, grow your thoughts, grow your knowledge. Knowledge is important because the more knowledge you have and the more you realize you've got knowledge, the more you feel valuable in life. The more skills you have, the more valuable you feel and worthy usually. And the more only if you can see it, only if you can recognize, my God, I have a lot of knowledge. Like you get knowledge from being around different types of people and listening to different types of people. Now, if you're in a relationship, the most person you're hearing from usually is a person you're in a relationship with. So your knowledge is getting limited to that person more because you're spending more time with that person than you are if you're a single person spending time with other people. Or even if you're just looking on YouTube, you can spend 4 hours learning loads of stuff on YouTube from different people all around the globe. You don't have to be going out and socializing with anyone, but you wouldn't have that time if you were in a relationship and you were having conversation with a person or cuddling up watching Netflix or whatever. You wouldn't be able to do that. Do you get what I mean? Jonathan, knowledge is power. Francis Bacon. Oh, Francis Bacon or Bacon? Bacon, I think it says. Yeah, I think knowledge is power. I didn't know that person said it. I think there's lots of people that said it, but it is true. But knowledge is about self-worth as well. Like I recently did a blog post earlier on asexualise.com, and I was talking about self-love in that. And I was talking about my journey of when I found out I found out I got skills, knowledge, experience, and qualities I could share with the world, right? And before that, I felt useless and worthless and didn't like my life or myself. But it's only when I realized that I have lots of knowledge from my past jobs and also life leading up to now and skills and experience. It's only when I realized all that I have that personally unique to me because only I've been around those people, had those specific situations, done those things, learned those things that I can use to share with the world and help other people. When we help other people, we actually heal ourselves, right? That if we help other people, we feel useful in life instead of useless. When we're depressed a lot, I used to be depressed for years, you end up very self-focused, withdrawn into yourself, and you don't really think about helping anyone else. The reason is because you think no one would want you, right? But when you turn your mind around and grow your own self-worth and your own self-esteem by spending time on your own and by making more decisions for yourself, by going out on dates with yourself, by doing things for yourself and keeping your own word to yourself, this is better. And you have to understand as well, which I mentioned in the article on asexualise.com, that people have been conditioning you. People like these are loved ones, family, friends. You know, you can have teachers and acquaintances a lot. People are conditioning you to think you're worthless for years a lot. If you've had a bad experience, this is not for everyone. Obviously, if you've had a good family, good support, good friends, everything like that, then that message is not for you. But if you are a person that's felt a lack of worth, that's because other people have put in your brain that you're worthless, right? They've done that to manipulate you, usually, right? To control you. Because if you think you're worthless, that your opinions, thoughts, and feelings don't matter, then why should they listen to you? Why should they even take your feelings into consideration, which they should do if they're healthy, right? Therefore, they can say what they want, do what they want, and tell you what to do. So you comply because they make you feel bad about yourself. So you comply. If someone tries to make me feel bad about myself now, I don't, because I don't comply with what they want, right? There was a guy who came back in my life on Facebook not long before I started this stream, right? And I didn't even recognize him at first. And then I said, He like, oh, hi Sandra, how are you doing? This is on Facebook. Private message. And I'm like, how do we know each other? He goes, oh, I think we met at Revolution. I said, oh, you're the married man. He goes, oh, you remember me. And he goes, oh, that's amazing, with little like roses or something. Like I must love him or something because I remembered him. And I said, you know, but I said, he's a married man. What's good about that? And he goes, oh, yeah, you remember me. And I'm thinking, yeah, I said, you're the only guy I've ever kissed that's married. And I didn't even know you were married because you lied to me. Right. And he told me that he'd been in this country, I think it was 8 or 9. Originally, he said he'd been in the country, I think it was 8 or 9 years. But then I found out after he'd been kissing me later on, when I was like probing and saying, you know, like about his personal life more, then I found out he was married. He's separated, but he's not even divorced. He had a wife in Pakistan with 2 children. When I asked him, so have you got any kids? Yeah. I never thought in my life I'd kiss a married man. It's completely against my morals, but I didn't realize he was, because I thought he was single. He'd been in this country 8 or 9 years, but it wasn't. It was 8 or 9 months. And he was still married. And when I said about divorce, he's like, oh no, our parents think we might eventually get back together. So that's why we don't get a divorce. And then tonight, when he tried to gaslight me, because he goes, oh, you're remembering it wrong. I told you everything. Don't you remember? I told you 4 years and about the divorce. And I'm like, no, that's not what you told me. I said, you're now trying to blur my reality and lie to me again. I said, you told me you weren't divorced and I'm not interested. I told him I didn't want to carry on talking to him. He carried on and I blocked him now. You know, I'm not interested in a liar. I said, you're still lying again. I don't know what these people think, you know. It just drives me mad. It makes me very angry. But, you know, I can walk away from people like that much more easily these days because I'm worthy of goodness. I'm worthy of a loving relationship. And the way you see that, you'll see that is by, if you observe people, couples together that are healthy, that are in love, that are supportive of each other, that are not lying to each other, that they're genuinely caring about the other person. So as a single person, if you are still looking to get into a relationship or date, or you believe, oh, there's no good relationships anymore, or, you know, companionships or whatever, you look for evidence outside of yourself if you don't have evidence within yourself. So first of all, you need to look for evidence within yourself of when you've made yourself happy, succeeded, done good things for yourself, so you can repeat that process over and over again, right, to make yourself happy and continue to make yourself happy as a single person. So look for evidence of when you've done something as a single person before, made you happy, repeat that process. Even the acknowledgement that you've done those things, and the more you remember of those things, the more you can build your picture in your mind that it's good to be single, right? But if within yourself you haven't actually got that, you then look externally for evidence of other people having it to know that you could also achieve that. Because what's achievable by one person is also achievable by another person. So by me sitting on the Eurostar in the seat where I sat next to that person who's loving and caring about their partner, I then feel comforted that people can have healthy relationships, that people genuinely care about people. And that particular person cared about the mental health of the person. How many people do you know who actually want to be in a relationship and say, I'll take care of all the bills. You don't have to work because I love you so much. I care about your mental health. I don't hear that very often. So to hear that, as I've got an anxiety condition myself, was absolutely incredible. It made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And I was so happy that that person's found their soulmate. That person knew that they're still studying. They said they haven't even completed their masters or anything yet. They're still like got a lot of education. They said probably 4 or 5 years before they live with each other. I said, you go all the way from your country to London to visit this person. They're like, yeah, you know, and they don't even hesitate to do that. And so by having this evidence of good, healthy, committed relationship where the person's even got mental health difficulties and struggles, just is good, you know, you can see there's good in the world. Jonathan, it's very admirable. Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't have had that experience had I been in a relationship. And say the relationship I was in was bad, like it was in the past, I wouldn't even get to experience the other side of what it feels like to observe a beautiful relationship, even though I haven't seen the partner of the person. Just the way they were talking about their partner, the way they understood their partner, the way they completely thought about the future with it. I mean, this guy must have been in his, I don't know if it's a guy actually. I won't say a guy, just in case, because they seem to I told them about being asexual, and they understood being about asexuality. They understood about a queer community, so I didn't know if they were queer themselves, because they were a little bit different looking, so I didn't know if they're actually trans or non-binary. Jonathan, but not sure I could feel anything strong emotions as an arrow to do anything similar myself. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be in a relationship. Like, if you're seeing that, what I mean to say is you can make you happy as a single person, even knowing that there's good people in the world, right? Good, genuine, caring people. Like, just because that happened doesn't necessarily mean to say I'm going to think, oh, I've got to be in a relationship now, because I know not everyone's like that person. But it makes me feel good to see that someone genuinely cares about someone. You can get this even in a friendship. I've got a best friend that is very close to me, Andy, and we get on really well. We usually message every day. We're in each other's lives every single day. And I'm so thankful for that. And so one of the ways you can be happy being single is if you've got like one or two even good friends or close friends, right? But you can't be reliant on that friend for everything. Like me and my friend Andy, we're still very independent. We have our own lives, we do our own thing, and there'll be hours where I don't speak to them, because they're doing their own thing, I'm doing my own thing. So it's healthy, right? But you don't have to like observe other people and think, I've got to have that. But what you can be happy being single, knowing that there's good people in the world. Because reason I'm saying this, because when you're single, sometimes you can be quite afraid, especially if you watch bad things like the news. The news is so bad for the mind. Death, murder, rape, destruction, right? It's not good, right? Which I would highly recommend don't watch news. I'm being serious. And so the more you have, like I was talking about the senses, the more negative sensory stuff you have, the worse feelings you'll usually feel, right? So if you want to make yourself happy being single, you have to put positive emotions, positive sensory stuff in you, positive environmental factors, positive news. So cut out the news and put positive, happy, feel good movies in there, for example. I do like seeing examples of good friendships. Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah. So when you see examples of good relationships, whether friendships or romantic relationships outside of yourself, it helps you to feel comforted that there are good people in the world. Because if all you're watching is negativity, reading negative stuff, consuming negative stuff, you're going to start to feel negative and unhappy as a single person, because you're plowing yourself, injecting your life and yourself with negative stuff, right? So the more that you can see examples of love or caringness, kindness, positive character traits within a person or within a relationship, the more it can help you to feel comforted within yourself as a single person, and kind of reassured and more secure and safe in yourself by seeing that there's good in the world. Because people I've spoke to before that's single, a lot of them are very kind of like, they can have paranoia, they can have huge anxiety, maybe panic attacks, and some of this, not all of it, but some of it is about what they're consuming, what they're listening to. And also it might be their friends. They might have very negative friends, very, very friends that are not really good for them, which, rather than cutting them out and the toxicity out, they carry on. They're not actually healthy friends for them. Like, it's one of the benefits of being single is you have more time to yourself to detoxify yourself from negativity talk, negative situations, negative people. But obviously, if you're seeing people that are constantly watching and consuming negative stuff themselves, and they're in your life, they'll spill that onto you. So the more that we can, as single people, be in good environments for us, be around people that are healthy, be around people that are caring, kind, got very good positive character traits, morals, values, beliefs, all in line with our own, because obviously some of them could be subjective, then the more we'll feel comforted and secure and safe within ourselves to be around other people, if you know what I mean. We'll feel a certain level of comfort. And so, on Valentine's Day, like, I'll be, for example, when I go out, I'll be having a meal on my own. Everyone else will probably be coupled up, right? And I'm still okay being by myself in a restaurant full of couples. Yeah, as a hyper romantic asexual, I do think sometimes, where's my guy to kiss? Because I'm hyper romantic, right? And obviously, like, some single people will just get a date for Valentine's Day. So instead of being celebrating being single, they decide that they want to go out and have a date from a dating site on Valentine's Day specifically, which as a single person you can do if you want, right? If you're in a relationship, you can't pick your person, you've already chosen them. But if you're on a dating site, you can kind of pick a date for Valentine's, providing they want to go as well, right? So I guess that's a benefit if you like Valentine's Day. And if you want to just grab someone for a date, I wouldn't really recommend just grabbing anyone, but some people like doing that. Variety is the spice of life, they say. But going back to that specific thing I just said, variety is the spice of life. You can have far more variety as a single person than you can in a relationship with someone, because as a single person, you could do something different every single day of your life, see different people every single day of your life if you want, travel different places. It's not always practical, obviously, at all. But what I'm saying is you have the freedom to do that, and you can get more variety in your life. I mean, I, as a single person, if I go out clubbing, I can kiss whatever guys I want, right? That is variety. If I was in a relationship with one person, then I would only have that one guy to kiss the person I was with, right? Because I don't believe in cheating. I don't really believe in going around kissing other people, and I'm monogamous. But as a single person, if I want to, which I haven't done for some time, but if I wanted to, I could go out and kiss lots of different guys if I want to, or whatever one guy I want to kiss, right? I mean, so I have variety now. I have more of a variety of guys to choose from who I want to kiss, right? And as a single person, you have more variety of where you can go out to, more of a variety of where you can travel to. If variety you like, some people don't like variety. They like to go to the same place, do the same thing over and over again because it makes them happy. And I did say that I often do like taking myself out to the same places because it makes me happy. Whereas when I'm with someone else, sometimes they want to do other things or they don't like going to the same place. But if something works for you and it makes you happy, you just repeat that over and over again and you continuously make yourself happy. Unless you're the type of person that gets happy for a while with something and then gets bored with it after a while, then you need to change it. But then that's when variety comes into it and you have the autonomy and agency to be and have a variety in your life because you're single. So it gives you lots more options being single, gives you lots more chances and opportunities being single that you would not have if you're in a relationship. Because there might be like even career wise, you might be offered to go somewhere, but if you're in a relationship, you might not be able to because you might have made plans with them already. You might have booked a holiday with them already. You might have decided you're going somewhere together already, and you can't go because you've already given your word to that person. So there are a lot of benefits to being single. The more you can see being single as a benefit, the happier you'll be being single. The more you can inject positive emotions and increase them and increase them and keep increasing them as a single person, the more you'll start to think, hang on a minute, this single life is probably better than a relationship anyway. And I do think that some of the time. I find it really difficult because there's still a part of me that would like to be in a relationship, but I have a lot of pros to being single. I mean, I have a huge amount of pros, probably more pros to being single than I do otherwise. Like the only benefit for me being in a relationship really is the kissing. Like in terms of like what's more beneficial, kissing and kissing one person and being probably a bit more intimate with the one person. And you could say companionship. I do have a best friend who's amazing. And you could argue that I could see a person a bit more because me and my best friend actually, in terms of seeing each other in person, it's probably like twice a month or less. And I could have video calls with the person, which I don't tend to do with my best friend because they don't like video calling. We sometimes have audio calls. So there are some benefits. And obviously if I got the person right guy for me and he was really intellectual, then I could learn stuff from him. I could, have things I could do together with a person. For example, there was a nightclub in London that I was thinking about going to, but I couldn't because it says you can't get in there as a single person. So it means I'd have to go with someone who I wasn't in a relationship with or can go on my own. In the end, I couldn't go on my own. It's really funny because when I went to the Premier Inn and told the guy at the reception who was foreign, he goes, "Oh, it's a shame I can't come with you." But it was a Bollywood event I wanted to go to anyway. I said, "Oh, you were Indian then?" Because and I said, "It's a Bollywood. I like Bollywood parties." And they're like, "No, I'm Mongolian." But they did look a bit Indian, actually. So that was quite funny. I said, yeah, it's a shame you can't come with me. I agreed with them. So in other words, the receptionist was really flirting with me, but never mind. So yeah, but overall, I can go in general, like in Exeter, I can go to whatever nightclubs I want on my own, which is where I live. And so there's a huge benefits. And also one of the benefits for me is I can go to sleep at whatever time I want. And I think that's a huge benefit if you're single, because especially if you live on your own specifically, because you can choose what time you go to sleep. If you're in a relationship with someone and you're sharing a bed with someone, if you are, say, like me, up till 4 a.m. and that person wants to go to sleep at 10 p.m. because they've got to get up for work the next day, then it can cause a lot of friction because you're wide awake or you have to get up and do something which wakes them up, or you're just sat there being really irritable because you can't get to sleep and you're feeling like you have to stay as still as possible to not affect the other person's sleep. So I remember, even with being in a relationship years ago, like the ex used to get up before me and they used to shower and that used to break my sleep up. And then I've been dating in the past. I dated guys, and I remember one of the guys I had over to my home, and he was just moaning. Actually, he was in a relationship. He was moaning about me being up in the early hours, but I put headphones on and started listening to music and dancing around the room because I just at 2 a.m. because I just couldn't get to sleep. And I did tell them I was in 2017. This was. I don't usually have guys in my home anymore. I haven't had any romantic guys in my home in any home I've had since that time. But I was when I was briefly with a British guy in 2017, I think it was. Or was it 2019? I can't remember now. It's a few years ago, whenever that was. I can't even remember. I'm not that into British guys anyway. But anyway, to cut a long story short, he was in my place and I told him it's not a good idea to stay. We didn't have sex, I only kissed. But I told him it's not a good idea to stay in my place because I can't get to sleep at normal times. So I'm going to keep you awake. It's better to like find somewhere like a B&B, but he wanted to come to mine and he was like, oh, it'll be okay. I told him, I warned him, and then anyway, so I was in the same room because I didn't have a separate lounge, so there was nowhere else to go, and he was in my bed, and I was just like, I'm so bored, I've got to get up. I can't sit there wasting my life away, so I started listening to music, put my headphones on, but the headphones, you can still hear them, you can still hear the music somewhat, and so I was dancing around the room, and I woke him up, and he was getting angry with me, and going, rah, 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 you're keeping me awake, it's all your fault. I'm like, but I told you, it's better for you to book into somewhere and not sleep at mine. I did tell you, I was honest about that, so what do you expect? Do you know what I mean? So, these kind of conflicts that go on. Also, if you're in a relationship and you do live separately, you've got to kind of take some of your items over to that person. So you end up being in two separate places, having two lots of items, like two lots of hair dryers, two lots of hair straighteners, two lots of toiletries, two lots of clothes, or take some of your clothes over to theirs. Then you have to take them back to yours to wash them if the person doesn't want to do the washing for you, which is fair enough, or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's a lot of backwards and to-ing and fro-ing. Whereas if you live on your own and you're not in a relationship, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. You don't have to worry about anything to do with another person like that. Of course, if you've got friends, you still need to be caring and considerate of them. But if you spend the majority of your time on your own, like I do, you can do as you please. You can do what the hell you want when you want, right? Obviously, I've got quite a responsibility to helping asexuals that I personally take on. I don't, I don't have to help asexuals, but I feel I have to because I'm meant to do that in my life, if you know what I mean. But it's out of like personal mission and love and care, not out of like obligation, if you know what I mean. I think I've got an obligation to because I care, but not a bad obligation. You know what I mean? I'm not doing something just I'm doing it because I love helping asexuals. That's what I'm trying to say. So, when you love what you do, and if I hadn't got all this time being single, I wouldn't be able to help asexuals as much, I don't think, because I just would have to have some time for a partner, wouldn't I? In all honesty. So that's the only difficulty as well if I get into a relationship. And that's why I'd want them, if they were the right guy for me, obviously, to come on this channel occasionally or sometimes, because it'd be easier then, because I need to still be able to help asexuals. And if I have a relationship, I don't want it to be secret. I just wouldn't like that, I'd want my partner to be here some of the time because they're going to be, and I can't just avoid them, and it would make it really awkward saying, oh, like I get out of my way now because I need to stream. You know what I mean? It's just not going to be very feasible. So I'd hope that I find a good guy for me if I ever do get into a relationship. But more and more I do kind of think I'm better off single, but there's still some part of me that does desire a relationship. So I'm still on Badoo and Facebook dating. But it's just like, I was like, a lot of the time I just think, well, what's the point? Because a lot of these people aren't healthy people, but there are still healthy people out there. And I do love my single life so much. And one of the ways you can be happy being single is literally saying to yourself in the mirror with your hand on your heart, I'm happy being single. I had to reprogram my mind to be happy being single when I came out of a relationship, and that's how I did it. I used positive affirmations, and I put my hand on my heart, looked in the mirror and said, I'm happy being single. I had post-it notes all around my home saying happy being single, happy being single. So you're kind of like brainwashing yourself to be happy being single, but it does work. It's like reconditioning yourself is a better use of words, right? So people condition you all the time. We're conditioned from birth to think that sex, marriage, and kids is what everyone wants usually, and being in a couple is what makes you happy. And so you have to recondition your brain to think the opposite. I'm happy being single. I love being single. I feel great being single. Even if you don't initially, you need to do that to rewire your brain, to tell your brain something else. I had to do this. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. And I used the affirmations and the hand on the heart and all these post-it notes all around my home to reprogram my being happy being single. It was good because I was codependent years ago, which is extremely unhealthy. It's like I couldn't be happy being on my own. So I've had to break away from that year after year after year and spend more time with myself, talk to myself more, solve my own problems, make my own decisions more. And that's how I became happier being single. Jonathan, ammonormativity and allonormativity is a word for such conditioning. Yeah, I don't really use those words often because a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about, It's societal conditioning in general, which happens to mostly the most population is heterosexual. But you're still going to have conditioning within gay communities and stuff like that. Like everything's conditioning, not, you know what I mean? Everything's conditioning. I've discovered over the years, everything's conditioning. You just choose what you want to be conditioned by. That's actually what you do, or you condition yourself as much as possible and recondition yourself. Because there can be conditioning even within gay society of gays have got to be a certain way. For example, it's thought that there's always a top and a bottom when they're having sex, right? Whereas some people are, traditionally, stereotypically, as far as I understand, most people believe that in a gay couple, for example, two men, one is a top and one is a bottom, as in one likes to insert their into the bum, the other person likes to receive, right? This is in gay community culture, stereotypical, right? When actually there are some guys that like switching. Some of them guys will have switching relationships where sometimes they're the bottom and sometimes they're top. But stereotypically, conditioning usually is that there's a top and a bottom. So it's not all to do with heterosexuals and heteronormativity or a lot of the allonormativity is to do with allosexuals, which are people that aren't asexual, which I know covers, I guess, gays and stuff as well, but I don't even use those words a lot of the time. There's a lot of other YouTubers that do, but I talk about sexuals and asexuals. But, even within the minority communities, there's still conditioning. That's what I'm trying to say. So, it isn't just heterosexuals that are conditioning everyone. There are some people that are in minority orientations that are still conditioning. Also, homoromantic aces with aren't either top or bottom for obvious reasons. Yeah. That there are a lot of conditioning within minorities as well. Like everyone's conditioned by the media. Everyone's conditioned by what they read and everything. So we have to basically, and conditioning is like programming, wiring your brain. I mean, at the moment, one of the biggest problems is we're all being conditioned by social media and the amount of time we spend on our phone and stuff like that. But I can switch my phone off for ages. Apparently, people can't do that. They're stuck to their phone. They can't. They have a nervous breakdown, or something's very wrong if they're not on social media. But sometimes I have to switch off my phone and be off social media for a number of hours directly. Not directly on it. Sometimes, I pre-schedule some posts, quite a lot of posts. Not all my posts are pre-scheduled because I can't be on social media all the time. But I am on social media a lot. And sometimes I can't get any other work done because I'm constantly getting notifications because I literally have to manage all my posts on LinkedIn. They're usually organic posts mostly on there. I haven't got any scheduled on LinkedIn, so they're organic. When I'm on YouTube, I have to reply to comments. That's me doing the commenting. Some of the posts I post in groups, especially like latest updates, some of them, like all the articles in, some of them are pre-scheduled. Well, some of them are usually the posts, like the like articles I've been in. Some of them are like ones I post myself. Others I use like a system to do and stuff like that. So you know, Jonathan, I don't feel trapped in YouTube that hours go by blindly. Yeah. But what I'm saying is it's like an addiction. Like social media is like an addiction. Like you said that hours go by blindly. That's because like you don't even realize you're using all your time for that. But some people, like are very addicted to their phones and on social media. They can't come off it, or they can't go off for a time. But I have to sometimes, because otherwise I can't get anything done. It's hard for me to get everything done as it is. I've got group comments to reply to and all sorts. I've got health issues ongoing at the moment as well. So, I mean, obviously, if you're single and got health issues, that's quite good if you've got supportive friends, supportive family, or, like you might have to pay to see a therapist or holistic practitioner and stuff like that. I'm thinking about seeing a holistic practitioner for my current skin issues because, the doctors isn't doing very well for that. But the benefit of being single is you've got your own mind. Like, say I lived with someone in a relationship and they were so for conventional medicine, right? And I get like holistic medicine. I like some homeopathy I've had in the past and stuff like that. But when you live with someone, you're in a relationship with someone, you often take their feelings and their what they think into consideration. Now, if you wanted to get some holistic treatment, but your partner was like, "Oh, well, I don't agree with that." That makes it harder for you because you've got the battle between what's going on with yourself and wanting to do something and the person's not agreeing with you. Of course, you need to do what's right for you, but it makes it harder. When you're a single person, you haven't got anyone else telling you, well, you shouldn't have anyone else telling you. If you do, it's easier to say no or ignore them. It's because you can make your own decisions for yourself a lot more. Do you know what I mean? So you can do what you feel's better for your body and your happiness more than if you're having to consider other people and other people's opinions and other people frowning upon you and stuff like this. And so I think it's really important to understand that we have a lot more freedom when we're single, and we can do and be and feel whatever we want to feel. There are some people though that struggle being single because they do have a lot of pain in their life. And a lot of the time, people are taught to avoid painful emotions, to avoid negative emotions, where actually suppressing and repressing them is what makes you feel bad and sad, especially on your own, because you're kind of living with your pain. So what it's good is good to actually reflect on what's causing you internal pain and try and work through those emotions, which means experiencing the grief and the sadness and the loss and having some time to cry and, getting a therapist if you feel that that would be helpful for you and stuff like that. But as a single person, you've got a lot more opportunities to be able to fit that type of thing into your life because you've got your own hours and your own time to yourself. Like, you can organize your life and time to yourself a lot better and easier. So there are so many benefits to being single. Like, if you're on single and not having any sexual relationships, obviously there's no risk of pregnancy, STDs, STIs. Obviously, some people that are single, especially if they're not asexual, will be sleeping around and stuff like that. So that won't really apply to them. But if you're a asexual person who's sex repulsed, or a person that just doesn't have sex unless you're in a relationship, then like you've got nothing to worry about like that. Do you know what I mean? It's less stress. Sometimes it's less stress being single. I find it a lot less stressful being single than I do when I was in a relationship. But that might be because in the past I didn't have great relationships. But I find a lot less stressful. But with my best friend, the majority of the time, they're relieving my stress. They're helping me so much in my life. We both have our own difficulties in our life. So I'm not going to say 100% that's the case for me or them, helping each other, but they help me a lot, and I care about them dearly. And it's really good to have some support if you can get some support. It's hard to find really good friends. It's not easy because a lot of people do have their own lives, And sometimes that's because they are single and they're very preoccupied with their single life. They're very internalized and they don't actually realize they still need to connect with others, especially if they have got friendships, they still need to maintain those friendships. And other times it's because they're in a relationship and they don't have time for friendships as much because they put too much or put a lot of stock in being with their friend, being in their relationship, you know. But sometimes people work a lot of hours and it's like they might work 5 days a week, nights, and they can't see their partner. So they've only got 2 nights off to see their partner. And if you're a friend of theirs, you're not going to have much opportunity to see them then, are you? Um, so, you know, if you're single and, you know, you work a lot of hours, it doesn't matter so much, but you've still got to maintain your friendships. I have to say this, if you're single and you do have good friends, don't take advantage of that by thinking, oh, I don't have to message them or see them or, you know, keep in touch with them, because don't expect people to be there for you if you're not there for them. You still have to have a degree of equality. If you just like don't even speak to that person for a long time, it's like they're the ones contacting you, you know, you're not really keeping the relationship alive and growing and going, then that's not healthy for the other person. So they're going to eventually leave your life or hardly speak to you at all. And it's going to be hard for them to be there for you when you weren't there for them. They'll have their own friends and their own life by then. So if you are a single person, don't be avoidant of others, you know, be healthy person to interact with. If you don't want many friends, that's fine. If you don't want any friends, I would say that's not very healthy for you, in terms of like one of the 5 ways to well-being is connection. So you do need some connection with some other people, even if you're introverted, you know, connection is healthy. And we can only be healthy people ourselves if we learn to interact healthily with other people by practicing healthy communication, healthy listening skills, healthy verbalization. Right? If you've got a problem with someone, you need to explain what the problem is and what the solution is. Right? I see some people and they're going, "Oh, I felt judged." Right? Okay, you felt judged. So what behavior should that person have done instead? What actions should have they taken instead? What, you know, what do you want them to do about it, in other words? So there's people that make statements about other people, but they're not actually telling them the behavior they want instead. A healthy relationship or friendship is about explaining what behavior you want instead. Like, when you did this, I felt hurt, or when you did this, I felt judged, or when you did this, I felt criticized. What I'd like you to do instead in the future is this, please, because this would make me feel better. People are not mind readers, right? So, as a single person, the danger is you can get very withdrawn into yourself and forget about other people and forget, you know, to interact with other people. That's why I always recommend trying to keep some sort of connection and communication up with people outside of yourself so that you can still build healthy communication and social skills, relationship skills. You know, like you can still maintain healthiness, because if you are so withdrawn into yourself, some people get so obsessed with being just on their own that they're not healthy with other people then. And then eventually it's like Christ or crikey, you know, it's like, where's my friends? You know, like I'm on my own. And they don't realize it's because they haven't bothered to take time out of their day and their life to actually interact with other people, because they've been so self-absorbed. So that is kind of like the darker side of being happy, of being single, is that you become so you know, obsessed with being on your own and you know, and all the attentions on yourself that you've forgotten the outside world, you've forgotten other people. So, you know, to make yourself happy being single, you might think that being obsessed with just your own life is good, but it's actually excuse me, not healthy in the long term, you know, because you do need other people there. There's going to come a point in your life when, you know, you might need them because your family's not going to be around forever and a day. There's, you know, there's going to be a time when maybe you have got ill health. People are more likely to help you in that situation if you, you know, if you're there for them at some point. That was me in 2022. I felt more attached to fictional characters than anyone else. Thank you for sharing that, Jonathan. It's really kind of you to share that. Because, you know, some people do feel more attached to other things, and you know, it's, I understand, you know, like how people can get very withdrawn into themselves, but it is unhealthy, you know. You we are in society, where we like it or not, and the more we become withdrawn and into ourselves and not interacting with other people, the more we get scared of actually going out there, being around other people. You're keeping yourself in social anxiety or making your social anxiety worse. The way you get used to being in social situations is by going out in social situations, by going out into the world. You don't have to mingle with loads of people all the time. I go out on my own a lot and I just sit on my own and self-date and do my own thing, but I'm around people. So I can still get a flavor of other people. I can still hear couples chatting. I can still hear kids talking to their parents. I can still hear friends talking to each other. So I still have a degree of awareness of the world about me, of how people are interacting. I can actually spot when someone's quite good for the other person and when someone's quite bad for the other person. I'll look at them, and if their behavior is they're both looking at their phones, they're not talking to each other, both looking at their phones, they're not really discussing anything. It's just like, oh, let's look at our phones and eat. It's like that's unhealthy, right? People should be putting their phone down when there are other people and talking to them, you know? And so I know, I've known of a couple, I've still know one person at the moment, and they've gone to the point of obsession about being on their own that I don't hear from them usually anymore, when they were actually at one point going to come and see me, and that's kind of like completely like not a discussion anymore, which I was a little bit disappointed about, if I'm honest, because I'm like, oh, I was so happy that they wanted to come and see me and that they were starting to make plans, or I thought they were starting to make plans. They were at least talking about it and that. And basically the time's now gone when said they were going to come and see me. It's like mid-February time, and you know what I mean? And now they're just, I understand what they're doing. They're busy in projects, they're doing a lot of work, and I think it's great what they're doing, but obviously, like, it's hard to maintain a close friendship with someone like that when they're so into what they're doing that like you tend to feel neglected in a friendship if the person's so withdrawn into themselves like that. You know what I mean? And I think it's great they've got momentum going on that, but you know what I mean? It's like, I have to look elsewhere at other things. I have to know that that's not a reliable thing. That's not going to happen now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you want to be around people, have friends that are reliable. They say they're going to do something, they follow up and they do it with you. You know what I mean? Or they at least communicate a lot about why they can't do something. You know what I mean? Like, or they make plans another time or something. You know what I mean? But to just like be trying to make plans when it's suitable for them and then cutting all that off, it's just like, it's not great. I know they're really busy. It's not like I've never spoke to them since they said that. I have, and they're really busy with their projects. And I think they're going to be busy till May now. But it's like, do you know what I mean? Like, person does get your hopes up when it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to come and see you. We can do this, that, and the other. And then, like, I asked them once, have you thought about that? They're like, oh no, no, something happened, and no, I haven't given it any more thought. And that was basically it. And it's like, well, I'm not going to chase that up because clearly they don't want to. I've spoke to the sister. They're like, oh, I'm really busy with my projects till May. So I'm like, okay, like, I am busy myself, but you know what I mean? So that's difficult, because it's like, well, you know what I mean? You can't have a close friendship with that type of person, because they're so withdrawn. I understand where they're coming from, but people should still make time for people if they want that person in their life and to still continue friendship. You know what I mean? It's important. It's not good if you become so obsessed in your own life and with what you're doing that you don't interact with anyone else or barely see anyone else or say something to someone and don't keep kind of your word or your promise. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got to build trust and reliability with yourself and with others. So I think, when you're single, make sure you do have some time for being around people. Even if you like going to the library, if you want a quiet place, go to the library. It might not be so quiet these days, but there's probably still aspects of the library that are quiet, and go there. If you like pottery, like join a pottery class. If you like picnicking, like go out in the summer months when it's summer, like go and have a picnic and just like be around people and stuff. So, just so that you can integrate yourself back into society again. So being single and happy is important, but being happy being single and being healthy being single also you have to think about, because in the long term, being happy being single means you do need to start healthy habits and practices and kind of deviate and go away from the negative, unhealthy practices that you may have. because otherwise you might destroy your future. You might sabotage your own future, because if you're not there for people in a friendship, like when the time comes that you need them, are they really going to be there for you? Do you blame them if they're not? You know what I mean? So we have to be mindful of this. Like, it takes work to have friendships, connections, and we must remember we still live in a world. We still have to usually do our food shopping, although some people do it online. It's still important to have human connections in real time, in real life, to be around people. It's healthy for us to do that, and long term, your future self will thank you for it. So being happy, being single is also about pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone sometimes to make a better future for ourselves. So we have to do things that are uncomfortable sometimes, push ourselves to do those, to make more headway in life, to make more like, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say to make gains in your life, to enhance your life, because if you don't do certain things to grow yourself, you just end up very stale and stagnant, and you haven't really made much progress on your self-development. And self-development is very important. I got over social anxiety. Well, I really got over social anxiety because I started hosting asexual meetups. I was really bad with my social anxiety for years. And usually I'd only meet at one-to-one with a person because I just couldn't be around in groups. I could never go to nightclubs on my own for years. I did go when my first long-term relationship broke up. I did start going clubbing then, actually, for a time, and then I stopped. But social anxiety, really, I got over when I started hosting asexual meetups. So, and then gradually getting myself more on self dates, going out to places on my own, nightclubs on my own, all that type of thing. So it's been a long progress, if you know what I mean. But it started with hosting asexual meetups in 2015 was really what overcame my social anxiety, hosting more and more of them, and being in groups and being comfortable in groups and happy being in groups. I had social anxiety for years. It's very difficult, but you've got to force yourself into social situations to get over social anxiety. But I was in groups before that weren't my tribe, like I tried a work group once, but some of the people weren't actually nice to me in work, probably because I'm different and asexual, but and so that was hard. And so even in that work group, I remember being in it, but the one person I used to get on really well with, mostly, I was sat next to them. I was mostly talking to them for the majority of the night. I didn't really speak to that many other people because I felt uncomfortable. Whereas when I'm around asexuals, the majority of the time I feel really comfortable because it's like we've got something to relate to, even if we're very different people. Our asexuality, do you know what I mean? We have that in common, even if we're on different parts of the spectrum. So it feels a lot more comfortable, a lot more reassuring. And so by being around those groups of people, I feel better. But going out and clubbing on my own, it can be quite difficult at times, but I've got more used to it because it's like, well, why shouldn't I be confident clubbing as a single person? There are guys that go clubbing and they're single. I like dancing. I usually get praised for my dancing. Of course, that does boost my confidence and self-esteem. So if you do go out on your own, act confidently and be as confident as possible, can then grow your confidence because other people can see you're confident and other people can be inspired by you. I get people in Timepiece nightclub next to where I am. I get girls taking selfies with me because they love how confident I am dancing on my own as an independent person. They're like, wow, you're so confident. Can we have a selfie? And it's really weird. I feel like royalty or celebrity or something. Because it's like, wow, that's really nice. And so one time a guy's like, oh, says to a security guard, she isn't a student. It doesn't say you have to be a student to go there. And the woman's like, she's our guest of honor, which I thought was so nice. So, you know what I mean? It's just about getting out of your comfort zone. Like, if you always stay by yourself as a single person and never get out of your comfort zone, then you will start to have phobias and fears and anxieties more, and you will start to get more withdrawn. So always like check in with yourself and realize that if you're going too extreme the other way, too with inward, that you do need to get out there and you do need to connect with other people in order to foster healthier relationships. Because like if you live with your family or if your family are close, right, your family's not going to be around forever. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. And so you're going to need some other people, right, in your life. Otherwise, if you're in times of crisis, like, I don't know if you know, but my dad's health had been really bad, and he's on permanent oxygen now. He's at home, so he's in a life-threatening, critical way the whole time, which is difficult. But my mum is with him and doing more for him than ever. And the neighbor, while when my dad was in hospital, sorry, my mum's neighbor would take my mum food shopping a couple of times, but that's because even though she's in a relationship with my dad, she still talks to the neighbor and is friendly and they get on well, you know? And even if you're single, it's good that you have people if you can talk to, even if it's a neighbor or someone, so that you can have someone there for you in times of crisis like that. You're more likely to get people helping you if you're there in times when you don't need their help. You know what I mean? If only you're there when you need the help, then it's not going to be people want to do stuff for you. So just think about that. So be happy being single, be healthy being single is a message I want to give you, right? Anyway, don't forget to celebrate being single on February the 14th. I want to know what you're going to get up to for it. I'm going to finish the live stream there. I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Make sure you're subscribed, because there's lots of people that watch this channel haven't actually subscribed. I want to thank Jonathan tonight for being in chat. You've been amazing. Lots of love to you. And I really appreciate your comments and input. I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Thanks for the thumbs up so far. Appreciate you. Lots of love. Take care. And don't forget to do something good on the 14th of February to celebrate being single, because it's great. Love you. Bye.